Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to start by wishing everyone peace in our hearts. We are celebrating 150 years of the fourth book published by Allan Kardec, Heaven and Hell. And to get to the core of what the book message is, I will write on the board, because whenever we have such a friendly group, which is very comfortable and soothing to all of us, I like to use the board. That way we have a little bit of interaction between all of us. Do you agree with that? Yes. You have no choice.
You are the boss.
Whenever we are together in a group of people, it could be 2 or 3, we need rules to regulate this convivial scenario. And these rules is what we call laws. Without laws, we have chaos. Therefore, we civilians, we need what kind of laws? Civil laws. Please do not judge me by my handwriting. You know, I have 5 sisters. And they all were passed by high school. High school, they did not pass high school. High school passed them. And I tried as much as I can to remove my ignorance. I study every day. And when my sister writes, you know, it seems that they're drawing. It's beautiful. And I try to make an effort every day by studying, and I have to rely on this chicken scratch sheet. Civil laws. What are civil laws for? To control our daily living. Civil laws have some characteristics. Characteristics about civil laws is that they are done, they're created by humans. Therefore, whenever we start living in groups of people, we had to create laws to regulate our society. And the first code of law that existed on this planet was the Code of Hammurabi. It basically said if you stole, it would cut your hand off. Very brutal law. But it's a law that regulated what happened in society. So we don't use Hammurabi's law anymore. Why? Because we have advanced. We have progressed. It's inevitable that we change our way of living, and therefore we need to change our laws. So if there is one thing that is true to all civil laws, they are changeable. Civil laws do not remain the same. They are changeable because we use them according to our needs. One of the civil laws is what we call traffic laws. Now, did we always have traffic laws? No. Why? Because we didn't always have cars. About 150 years ago, it was pointless to have a traffic law. Once we had someone in New York City being struck by a car, the first dead person that was caused by a car, we had a need to create a law in which regulated how we drive amongst other people. Just imagine the chaos it would be if everyone made its own laws to drive their cars. We couldn't. So traffic laws were created because we multiplied the amount of cars running in the streets, more people driving cars, therefore we needed a set of rules, a set of laws. But the same laws they apply back then didn't apply today. These laws were changeable. They are changeable. Why? Well, back in the 1930s, if you're driving one of those cars at 40 miles per hour, the car was shaking, the roads were bad, so to you, you're going super fast. Nowadays, if you drive one of the modern cars, excellent roads, you are at 100 miles per hour and you don't feel the speed that you're at. So the speed had to be changed according to the evolution of the machine. Therefore, these laws are changeable. You follow me so far? Good. Another characteristic of, before we get to that, traffic laws, what about marriage laws? That definitely changed over the years for the advantage of women and for the evolution of man. Back in the days, a man could have more than one woman. The law allowed. Do you know why that happened? In some instances, it's because back in our history, we have approximately 6,525 years of recorded history. Between those years of recorded history, only 450 years we had peaceful time. 450 years. So you can imagine that our history is unfortunately made up of most wars. And wars that were carried 300 years ago, 400 years ago, the soldiers could not simply take a train and go back home. Just to get to the destination of the war itself, it took months riding horses. So you imagine, you had all these people traveling to the war zone, and they left their families behind. And that created many situations. It was there was a climate to create a homosexual propensity, because you cannot stop the urges of the physical machine, and you surrounded yourself by people of the same sex, and you left your family behind. So many soldiers were killed. Once they got back home, you had all these women with children with no fathers, with no male figure to help them. So the law allowed, if you could prove that you can take care of your own family and kids and another family, you're able to have more than one wife. Now that doesn't happen nowadays, at least in this part of the planet, so the law is definitely changeable. Not only this law is changeable, but the law is variable. Why is it variable? Because it varies according to the geological place we find ourselves in, the geological location. The same traffic laws we have here in Chicago does not apply in New Jersey. The laws in New Jersey, they don't apply in New York. For instance, in New Jersey, you can make a right turn on a red light. Can you do that here?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Oh, I was thinking.
Depends on the sign.
It depends on the driver.
Yeah, and the driver.
In New York, you can't do that. And it's one state next to the other. So the law is variable. Now, another thing about civil law is that all civil laws are breakable. What does that mean? I told you not to pay attention to my handwriting. Oh my God. I have to definitely improve on this one. Do you agree? Look, you guys are so
We've seen
nice.
worse.
Be glad I'm not up there writing.
The law is breakable. When you look at a police officer car, at their door it says law reinforcement or law enforcement. What that means is that a group of people sat in the office and they created the law. They written the law on a piece of paper. This is why we need individuals, human beings, to reinforce the law that was created. Because if they're not there in the streets, we all can break the law. This is why police officers are called law enforcement, because they need to enforce the law that someone created back in their chambers. Now, if the officer is not around, can we break the law? Of course we can. Traffic law says we must stop at the red light. I could just drive through. Nothing will happen to me. Right? Some people will say, well, but what if there's a camera there? It could take a picture of your plate. That's true. I could get a fine, but I still broke the law. It's a law that I can break. What about marriage laws? Can we break the laws? Of course we can. Unfortunately. You know, and after divorce, Fortunately, for every 10 couples that get married, 5 gets divorced. It's a really high rate. And there is no law that punishes whoever cheats. How come we don't have a law that says, well, if you're caught cheating, then you have to spend 2 years in jail? That doesn't happen.
That'd be wonderful.
Would there be any men left behind in the streets?
Hopefully my husband.
There is a lot of honest men out there. A lot of honest men. But the fact is that we're definitely breaking here something so important. Respect, honesty, sacred bonds. But the civil law doesn't even look at it. It might look at it in the point when you have to split the properties. But when it comes to be punished for doing something wrong, the law is not there. This law is unreachable to those kinds of situations. So the law is definitely breakable. Another thing about civil laws is that this law here, how can I say this? This law is very partial. What I mean by partial is that the law actually chooses differently how it's applied according to the individual. In many instances, if you're powerful, if you have money, the law is applied to you very differently if you're poor without any money. That's not the way it should be, but unfortunately we know that it's not what happens. Whenever you walk into a court building, you always see that statue of a female with a blindfold. Have you seen that statue before? Do you know what that statue means? That justice doesn't see who applies its force to. It treats people equally. At least in theory, that's the way it should go. But is that the way it happens? I didn't hear you.
No.
No, unfortunately. So the law is very partial. It treats people differently. So these are the characteristics of civil laws. Created by humans. They're changeable, they're variable, they're breakable, and they are partial. Do you follow me so far? Very good. But then we have a different set of laws that regulate our behavior. Oh, I forgot another important point. Very important point. In order for us to follow these civil laws, we have to know them. If we don't have the knowledge of them, it's impossible to follow them. You actually have to go to school, read a book in which says, red light means stop, green light means go. If you don't know that, you could drive and have an accident. Property laws, we must read. Tax laws, I know most of us, we love to ignore them, but you're learning in the book what are your obligations towards the state, towards the federal government. So these set of laws, for us to follow them, we must know them. It's impossible to follow them if we ignore they exist. So we need to go to school, we need to read a book to put them into practice. So there's another set of laws called physical laws. These physical laws, they carry a whole different kind of characteristics. And I'll show you an example. What happens if I relax my fingers here? What would happen with this pen? With this marker? It will what? Everyone?
Fall.
Falls.
It will fall. Now, actually, this is an illusion. The pen is not falling. The pen is either being pulled or pushed by a force. Do you know what we name that force?
Gravity.
Gravity. Did you guys have breakfast today?
Yes.
What do we name this force?
Gravity.
Good. Do you know who first spoke the word gravity? An English scientist named Isaac Newton. The story goes that one day this man was sitting under an apple tree. The apple fell on his head. And at that moment, he had an insight. You saw this cartoon as a child. You probably just didn't know you were watching that cartoon. And he had an insight, and the insight was the apple was not falling, but it was being pulled. And he named the force gravity. Now the question is, did he create gravity or he discovered gravity? He discovered. Because gravity was always there. Apples always fell before Isaac Newton. So gravity was always there. He discovered a law. Where did he discover the law? Where? He discovered the law in nature. So we call it a natural law. And we have an illusion that the apple is falling, but the apple is not falling. The apple is either being pulled or pushed by a force named gravity. The earth is so big, and it's hard for us to picture that the apple is not falling but being pulled. We usually tend to look at earth this way. So we see that this is the apple tree, the apple is right there, and the apple is falling. But the earth is not flat. The earth is what?
Round.
The earth is what?
Round.
Round. So let's say we go to the North Pole. I know it's kind of impossible, but let's say we have an apple tree on the North Pole. That's the apple right there, hanging from the tree. If the apple falls, where will fall to? Here. Do you agree?
Yes.
But if we go to South Pole, this is how the apple tree would look like on the South Pole. So now where's it going to fall to?
What?
It's going to fall up. You heard? What you had for breakfast?
Coffee.
We hope so. It's going to fall up. If we go to this side of the planet, we have an apple here, and this side of the planet, we have an apple there. So it's always falling towards the center of the earth. It's not falling, it's being pushed that way. You understand this? Mm-hmm. So that's what Isaac Newton saw. He saw that the moon was constantly falling around the earth. So here we have a clear picture that this is not a process in which the apple is falling, but the apple is actually receiving an influence of an outside force, and we call that force gravity. Now, was gravity created by a human? No. So the law is unhuman. The law, gravity. If we go back when it first started being observed by scientists, and we get their numbers, we look at the data, it is exactly the same when we study gravity today. Because gravity did not change. Gravity did not change back then, and it's the same as it is today. As a matter of fact, the forces of the universe came to being after the Big Bang. So you have the weak force, the strong force, electromagnetism, and gravity. Those four initial forces. And from right there, gravity shaped our universe together with the other forces. So that law did not change. So a natural law is what? Unchangeable. The law is also invariable. It doesn't matter what we can do, gravity will always be the same. The law of gravity, the natural law of gravity, is what? Can we break gravity? No. We can escape major influences of gravity because each body exerts another force in another body, but it doesn't matter where we go in this universe, we always will be under the law of gravity. And it's a law that we can't break. We can't twist gravity. There's nothing we can do to escape from gravity. So the law is unbreakable. Before we get to this one, let's get to Do we have to know gravity in order for gravity to apply to our lives? Absolutely not. I could be a man from the jungle. I never heard this word before. I never seen civilization. I never heard the word science. I'm climbing a tree. I miss a branch. What's going to happen to me? I will fall. I will fall because I'm under the law of gravity. There's nothing I can do to escape this natural law. I don't have to like it. I don't have to understand it. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to agree with it. There's nothing I can do to escape from it. Because there are some people that within their ignorance, they claim, I don't believe in this stuff. And by saying that, they think that by not believing in this, it doesn't apply to them. It doesn't work that way. It applies to us all, regardless how we feel about it. This point is very important. Some people, they claim, I don't believe this, so therefore they think it doesn't apply to them. It doesn't work that way. The law simply is. So we don't have to know this law. We don't have to be aware. You don't have to know. Now, if you are a rich politician, if you are the president of some country, if you're a very important man, do the law of gravity apply to you? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
If you're a poor man from the slums, you don't know anyone, you're completely unknown, do the law apply to you the same way?
Yes.
Yes. This law here is truly blind. It's very impartial. It applies to all of us exactly the same way. It actually applies to objects the same way. Here. Which object do you think is heavier? This water or this marker? The bottom. So which one will fall faster?
Same rate.
That's what we thought. But Galileo Galilei, the first scientist who proved that the sun is not going around the planet, but rather the planet's going around the sun, he studied gravity, the influence of these forces. Of course, he didn't discover gravity, he didn't name gravity, but he knew these forces acted the same way on this object. And he actually proved it that way, because the objects will fall the same way. As a matter of fact, he predicted on his time that if we could have a chance to be in the moon, actually on the moon, and we carry out the same experiment, the objects will fall the same way. And you know they did this back in the 1960s? They took the objects when they went to the moon and they did the experiment. It's beautiful that this man was right so many centuries ago. I don't know about you, but I say these things, I get the chills. You know, it's unbelievable how men back then could say something like that, and it was actually proven. Why? Because the law is the same for everyone and in all objects everywhere. Do we have this point very clear, my friends? Yes. Good. So now we can see that the natural laws apply to all of us. They are unhuman, unchangeable, unvariable, unbreakable, impartial. And we don't have to know about them. So then we ask ourselves, what this has to do with my personal life? What this has to do with my problems? With my depression? What this has to do with my state of unhappiness? Daniela, let me get a piece of paper so I could erase this more efficiently. It does matter because these natural laws, they also apply to our moral lives. And that's what the book Heaven and Hell is all about. The book Heaven and Hell, just like all the other books, you're not supposed to believe in a word that you read. You will never find in these books a sentence that says, believe because I told you so. Never. It's always use your own mind. Put your logic, put your rationality to work. So you could take your own conclusions. It's never to believe because someone said so, but to use natural laws. Thank you. Scientists observe the same process with different phenomena. And they discovered the law of action and reaction. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is something they found in nature. They also used a different terminology to describe the same phenomena, and they named cause and effect. For every effect, we must have a cause. If I relax my fingers here, the cause is the relaxation of my muscles. The effect is the falling of the marker. The action is the relaxation of my muscles. The reaction is the pen falling. Philosophers and religious people throughout all of our history, they observed the same phenomena, but instead of naming this way, they gave a different wording. And the wording that they used was, we sow, and then we reap. What does the word sow stands for? The action of the farmer to spread seeds on the soil. What does reaping stands for? Removing the fruit after it's ready. So let's say if he wants to plant apples, he will sow seeds of apples. After a while, an apple tree will grow up. Now the apples are hanging from the tree. I will reap the apple because I have sown apples. Very clear then, if the action are seeds of orange, the reaction will be the fruit orange. I'm sorry, I changed the fruit. I was using the apple, then I switched to orange. If the cause are seeds of orange, the effect will be oranges. If the sowing are seeds of orange, the reaping will be oranges. And then we look at this, it's a natural law. I don't have to like it, I don't have to understand it, I don't have to believe it. This happens in South America, in Asia, it happens everywhere. I don't have to know about it. It's invariable, it's impartial, and what this has to do with our lives. Everything. Because our actions are seeds, the soil of life. Our actions, what we do, are seeds in the soil of life. We are constantly planting something for ourselves. So let's put this into real practice here. Let's say one day I am going to my house. My neighbor comes to me and says, Julio, I was laid off. My wife is pregnant. I have no money. Please help me out. Can you talk to your boss and ask him if he could give me a job? On the following day, I'm talking to my boss and says, listen, but I don't have any time for your friend. Unless if I cut some of your own paycheck to get your help your friend out. That's the only way. If you want to do a half hour less per day, maybe I could hire him. So I agree with it because I understand my neighbor's despair. On the following day, he gets hired and life moves on. What I did to my neighbor, how can we classify that action? How can we name that seed? Positive or negative?
Positive.
I didn't hear you.
Positive.
Positive. It's a positive seed. A month goes by, 2 months go by, 3 months go by. Time does not matter with these things. Remember that. Time does not matter. These things. And one day, I'm on the road. I have an accident. I'm in the middle of anywhere. Someone that I never seen in my life stops, sees my broken car, sees me, takes me to the hospital and helps me out. When I'm going through that experience, I believe that was good luck. My friends, that does not exist. Good luck doesn't exist. I created that help with my own positive action. Do you understand this? So what's going on here? I am reaping what I have sown. I'm reaping something positive because I have sown something positive. Clear?
Yes.
I don't have to like this. I don't have to agree with this. I don't have to understand this. But most likely, when I'm searching to ask myself, what have I done to deserve this help? I will probably remember that I did help someone. Because our minds are excellent to remember good things that we have done. Should I repeat that? We have great memory to remember good things that we have done. And you live at that point right there. Now let's think of another scenario. I am a thief. And by being a thief, I like to steal. So one day I'm invited to this party, and here I am dancing with everyone. Danielle is going to do the choreography after I'm done here. I'm dancing, but since I'm a thief, now I'm going to walk around to do my inventory, to see what this man has that it's valuable that I can steal. So I'm checking people's pockets in the closet, I'm opening different drawers, then I see $1,000. I put this money in my pocket, I go back to the dance floor, and I'm pretending that nothing took place. Then I go home. 2 hours later, the party's over. The man will fix his house, and he will find out that his $1,000 is gone. So what will be his first impulse? Let me call the cops on this guy. I can't believe someone stole from me. So now he's dialing 911, and then suddenly he says to himself, what's the point of this? There were 200 people at my house. They would never find out who took my money. So this is useless. So he hangs up the phone. So I, the thief, I'm guaranteed of one thing. I'm not going to jail for what I just did. Why? Because he never bothered to call the cops to begin with. And then the owner of this house, he sits down and he reflects to himself, who could have done this? I invited this individual to my house. I probably hugged him when he arrived. He ate from my food, he drank from my beverages, and he had the audacity to steal from me. Either this guy is out of his mind, or he's very desperate for money. You know what? Either or, I will forgive him. I will forgive him because today is my birthday. I received lots of friends at my house. My family came over from overseas. I had such a good time. I had a lot of gifts. I will forgive him because I don't want this incident to bother me. This individual is very wise. Let me open a parenthesis on this point right here. It's amazing how we allow others to dictate our misery. If that scenario is true, we could have 100 people come into our house. They could say beautiful thing about us. They could say, we love you, we like you, thanks for coming over. 99 could say those things. One would say something about the food. Maybe they'll come to you and say, listen, you should have ordered something better, You'll look at them, oh, okay, next time I'll try. The minute they turn their back on you, you're telling yourself, how could they say something like that to me? This is impossible. I did not hear that. Then we go to our husband, we go to our wives. Can you believe such and such said these things to me? And now our party is destroyed. We are unhappy because of the opinion of one individual. What happened to the opinion of the 99 individuals? I see that constantly. We value the negative opinion. And opinions has the value that we give it to them. Opinions have the value that we give to them. This marker here, how much costs at Staples?
$1.
$1? If you go to Office Depot, $1.50. If you try to buy this marker in the jail system, probably $4. If you buy the BJ's, Do you have BJ's in here? Costco?
Costco.
You buy a whole pack for $4, right? So we are giving this marker its value. The marker does not have an absolute value. It has a relative value. We give the value to it. Memories and opinions from other people has the value that we give to them. And unfortunately, we are masochists. We like to suffer because we value the opinion of the negative people, the people who don't like us. Why? Why not value the opinion of the people who likes us? We could have 10 people saying nice thing about us, but we allow just one of them to bother us. Isn't that very ignorant of us to do?
Yes.
You have 50 co-workers. There's one co-worker you don't get along with. The opinion of that co-worker about you has more value to you than the 49 other co-workers. Why do we do that? Out of stupidity. And then we go on to have depression, misery, anxiety. We hate our jobs because of one sick individual. Someone is saying nasty things about you. They don't like you. And if they're trying to do something negative to you, always remember, only unhappy people makes other people unhappy. Happy people will not make other people unhappy. So if someone is trying to make you miserable, that's because they are unhappy themselves. From the moral, emotional point of view, they are sick. Why are you allowing yourself to be contaminated by a sick individual? You can give them the right to be who they are, but please impose on yourself the duty of not allowing to be contaminated by sick people. Unhappy people wants to make other people unhappy. This is so basic, yet most people won't follow. We should be contaminated by the happiness of other people, not by the unhappiness of others. So let me close the parenthesis right now, and let's go back to this individual at the party. So he says to himself, I'm very happy. I will not allow this single incident to destroy my night. I had many gifts. All my friends came over. I will not allow this thief to destroy my evening. So I will forgive him. This in itself, it's a whole different topic, a whole different seminar, because you could see from this point that forgiveness is not for the thief. Forgiveness is for whoever forgives. That's what the word says. Forgive. Forgiveness is to give. Forgive. To whom? To the other person? Absolutely not. You will not change the thief. When he forgave that thief, the thief will continue to be a thief. Because that's what he is, a thief. If you forgive someone who has harmed you, they would not start harming other people. That's what they do. They're unhappy, and they want to go on and make others unhappy. So forgiveness is something that you're given to you. It would not change their lives, but it would definitely improve the quality of your life. It's for you. Because when we don't forgive, we put ourselves in a prison of hatred. Wherever we go, we are behind the bars of resentfulness, of madness, of anger and grudges. Impossible to make our lives happy. And the other person who has stole from us, where are they right now? In Cancun. They could care less about how we feel today. So this man knows this. He says, let me forgive this thief. I don't care what he has done to me. I will value those who were here and gave me gifts and treated me nice. Not this particular person who trying to make my life miserable. So he forgives. So now the thief thinks he got away with this. Because he never went to jail to begin with. And he finds out from other people who were at the party that he was forgiven of his crime. So in his mind, he got away with this. But how can we label his action? Is this a positive or negative action? Did he sow something positive or did he sow something negative? How can we label the seed?
Negative.
Everyone?
Negative.
if you're ever in doubt, if you're about to do it's positive or negative, you simply ask yourself the golden question rule, which is,
Would I have done this to others?
would you appreciate if someone else did what you're doing to that person? If you're about to do something, if this other person did you the same, would you approve it or disapprove it? Which is the golden question. Do unto others as you wish others do unto you. So would I approve it if it was done to me what I'm about to do? If the answer is no, therefore don't do it. Because the measure of pain is equal for all of us in that sense. That is divine justice. What hurts in me hurts in other person. We don't need a priest or pastor to let us know we're doing something wrong. We know it's the voice of consciousness. This is why in the most basic book of Spiritism, on question 621, we have the teacher, this sublime educator, Allan Kardec, asking that question. Where has God written his law? And the highly evolved spirits answered, in our consciousness. Because we know when we're doing something wrong, don't we?
Yes.
We know. That little voice tells us. And this is why, over the reincarnations, over many centuries, we have become experts in creating excuses. What is an excuse? It's a way to bypass that voice of consciousness. I say to myself, you know what? If I don't take this $1,000, someone else will. It's the voice of consciousness. It's my bypass, my mechanism of deceiving this own consciousness, this God with small g within me. Everybody else is doing, so it's okay to do it. You know, I could have 1,000 people doing something wrong. Just because it's 1,000 people, it still is wrong. You know, Hitler did not kill the Jews by himself. He counted on the help of thousands of soldiers. But just because there were thousands of soldiers killing Jews, it was not right to kill people. Period. As a matter of fact, I read 2 weeks ago that Hitler never visited one concentration camp. He never saw with his own eyes what was taking place in these concentration camps. I mean, he knew, but he never contemplated the scene itself. I'm not diminishing his responsibility. What I'm saying is that because many people are doing it, it doesn't make right that we do it. If everyone is taking off from your job without the boss' permission, it doesn't make right that you do it as well just because everybody else is doing it. Something that is wrong, it's wrong, period. Because if you were the boss and you're counting on people to do the job, you want all the employees to fulfill their responsibilities, right? So if we're ever in doubt what we're about to do, it's positive or negative, simply ask yourself the question, if it was done to me, would I appreciate it? If the answer is no, therefore, don't do it. If the answer is yes, go ahead and do it. So he definitely did something negative, which was to steal from someone else. Would you like for someone to steal $1,000 from you? No. Would you like people to say bad things about you?
No.
Would you like to people gossip about you?
No.
If we do it, is what? So, it's negative. Would you like people to treat you nice and kindness?
Yes.
If you do it, then it's?
Positive.
Would you like people to say good morning to you before you say good morning to them?
Yes. Yes.
So if you say good morning first, so it's definitely negative. So now he think he got away with this. 6 months go by, a whole year goes by. He doesn't care. And one day he's invited to somewhere else. He's driving over there. Starts to rain. He loses control of his car, hit the pole, and cause his car some damage. He take the car to get fixed, Guess how much it's going to cost him to repair his car?
$1,000.
$1,000. At that moment, he would say to himself, boy, am I with bad luck. Bad luck does not exist. And he would try to find out who's responsible for this, because we're excellent in creating excuses for our own actions. He will probably say, the weatherman, he's not doing his job. This meteorologist, he's probably sleeping, because I never knew it was going to rain. He did not even turn the radio on, but he's blaming the meteorologist. He will probably blame his friend for inviting him. If my friend never invited me, I'll still be home, my car will be fine. But he will fail to see that he created that action on that day that he stole that money. Why? Because we have very poor memories to remember the bad things that we have done. We have excellent memories to remember the good things that we have done. But we have a very poor memory to remember the bad things that we have done. The opposite is also true. We have excellent memory to remember bad memories that other people has done to us. And we have lousy memory to remember the good things that other people have done to us. By understanding this concept, you understand what is the objective of life. It's not to believe in a supreme being. It's not to believe that Jesus is your Savior. It's to understand this concept that your life has the measure of how you impact other people's lives. Jesus, in this sense, is not someone who created any law. Jesus, just like Isaac Newton, in a much higher sense, of course, he is the revealer of natural laws. Jesus did not create these laws. He revealed the laws. This is why he said that the first commandment is to love God beyond our things and our neighbors like we love ourselves. Why? Because our happiness is directly proportional to how we love our neighbors. Our unhappiness is directly proportional to how much we harm our neighbors. And that's what the book Heaven and Hell is all about. The first section of the Heaven and Hell is explaining what is heaven, what is hell, what is purgatory. And we'll find out that it's not a geological place, but a state of mind. Those who have done negative things, they're constantly a victim, a prisoner, a sufferer of their own actions. It's what we call guilt. Guilt can render someone crazy, completely psychotic. Guilt is a very powerful force. So they are in their own state of hell because they remember the things they have done. And now their consciousness is awakened, because we can do evil things and not notice at that time, but eventually progress will take place. Our consciousness will awake, and the way we judge ourselves, the way we perceive what we have done completely changes on us. And we measure what we have done differently. And then guilt comes in for those who have done harm. Happiness comes in to those who have done happiness. So they're living their hell. Who are those who are living heaven? In heaven, the people who have done nice things. Some of these people did not believe in anything. They just did nice things as a duty of their own consciousness. Because there is something that Spiritism teaches, is that the right religion is the religion that makes you a better person. It's not saying follow Spiritism and you'll be saved. Follow Jesus and you'll be saved. It doesn't say those things. It says, do unto others as you wish others do unto you. It's repeating Jesus, but in a much clearer way. So even if we don't understand none of this, and we apply that simple rule, I will treat you just the way I want to be treated, we are safe. Not that we'll be taken to heaven. We are safe in the sense that we're not going to confront our own guilt, because we're not going to feel any. I was always looking at others. So then we ask, well, what's then the point of learning Spiritism? Because Spiritism breaks down to us in detail this information. And since we are rational beings, we only follow things that we understand. This is why I said in the beginning, we're not supposed to believe it. We're supposed to understand it. Because by understanding, then we'll naturally follow. Not because we're scared of some being, not because someone told us so. It's because it finally sank in our consciousness that this is the way to go. I don't need a police to enforce the law on me. I don't need someone to tell me this is the way it should be done. I understood. I am in sync with the natural laws that governs the universe. So in that book, Heaven and Hell, you will read something that is a synthesis of the Spiritist doctrine, which is the penal code of the future life. What is a penal code? A penal code, penal comes from penalizing someone. When you go to the city hall, they have a penal code for traffic laws. If you park in the street, after certain hours, your parking ticket will be, I don't know anything about traffic laws in Chicago. How much you pay for a traffic ticket in Chicago?
A lot.
For parking. Is it a lot?
Parking
Yes.
tickets are about $10.
That's it?
No.
In the city,
A lot
though,
is
$100 in the city.
100.
That makes more sense for Chicago standards.
Okay, in Evanston it was $10.
Just like in New York. It's something like that. So,
It's $60.
but if it's a different street, then the price is completely changed. It's according to how much they need that street, and how much money they're trying to extract from unconscious drivers. So the penal code establishes the details of the rule of that law. So the penal code of the future life describes how we will find ourselves in the future life according to what we have done. And there is no sentence there that says, if you are a Spiritist, you're safe. It's all about what we do towards other people. There is no line that says, if you believe in God, you're safe. If you pray 100 times per day, you're safe. None of that. It's all about actions. All about what we do. Understanding the law, which is reading Spiritism, it completely changes our lives because now we're going to do it. But just reading, just comprehending, it doesn't necessarily, it's the action itself. I could learn beautiful things, yet if I don't put into practice, it's useless within me. And as a matter of fact, we are more responsible for knowing and not applying. The more we know, the more responsible we become. So after reading that penal code, then we have examples in the Heaven and Hell of happy people, of unhappy people, of people who hasn't done too much. Neither they did bad things or good things. They're neutral in that sense. But we are never always neutral, because when we look at our own lives and we didn't do anything, for us that's a waste of time. And a waste of time becomes something negative for us. And then you have suicides. Boy, those who commit suicide, they are expecting something terrible for them. And this is a very sensitive subject because of the area I work in. And here in the US alone, on a yearly basis, we have approximately from 36 to 38,000 people committing suicide. And one interesting fact, Danielle, how many minutes do you have? Okay. One interesting fact about suicide statistics. We are so doctrinated that money equals happiness, that immediately we assume that being poor, it means unhappiness. And the epitome of feeling unhappy is suicide. The pain becomes so unbearable that you want to take your own life. Then we make this assumption this leap of philosophical understanding that those who are committing suicide must be poor people. But that's not what the data shows. The data shows something very different. Rich countries has the highest suicide rates. Even billionaires kill themselves. And if there is a pain that is common to all suicides, it's the pain of disillusionment. What is disillusionment? Disillusionment comes from getting out of an illusion. An illusion, it's a fake image that we create of a situation. So all suicides, basically what they're trying to do is to run away from the pain. So the first thing they found out once they commit suicide is that the pain they were trying to get away from is right there. But now multiplied 100, 1,000-fold, because now they realize that the way of getting out of their pain was to stay in the body and complete their duties, overcome their challenges, which could be overcoming pride, overcoming humiliation, being poor again, but they didn't. So they multiplied their pain. Each person that commits suicide, there is a different reason for it. But if there is a ground basis for all of those who commit suicide, is the disillusionment part. So if you read Heaven and Hell, for those who threw themselves on the front of a train, they live and relive that image over and over again. They hear the sirens of the train, they could feel the vibrations of the wheels, and then their body being split up by the wheels. And then they get to relive that picture over and over again. That's the kind of pain they're looking for themselves. Now, is God creating that punishment? Absolutely not. They were trying to break an unbreakable law. And that repetition of their pain is nothing but medication for their soul. Because as long as they keep repeating that pain over and over, it will be imprinted in their unconscious mind that they never and ever on future reincarnations resort to that kind of solution. Because they're not solving anything. That's the purpose of pain, to teach us something. So this is why they keep repeating that. So if you are going through a state of despair, if you have a friend who is going through the same state, don't even play with the idea. Don't even talk about it. Because by talking about it, we get accustomed to the idea. And suddenly, we think that it's a solution when it's never a solution. Be very careful with those thoughts. So this year, we're celebrating the Spiritist movement, 150 years of the book, Heaven and Hell. And that book gives us a glimpse of what our future will look like. It cannot tells us details of your personal life, because your heaven or your hell is made up by you, by your own actions. But there we're going to get a glimpse. And if we are very conscious that we want to create our happiness, we will be in sync with the natural laws that we find in the penal future code of our life. Always make sure that you're doing good, and you'll be all right for your own good. To finish, because we only have 5 minutes, here in Chicago, many years ago, there is a story of a boy who always dreamed of becoming a doctor. But his family did not have much money, so he had to work himself to get to any money. So he could buy books, go to school. So he started early on to sell newspaper. And one day he was really thirsty, he was very hungry, so he pressed the bell of this particular door, and a 9-year-old came to attend him. He was also 9-year-old. And he said, "Listen, I'm selling these papers here, I'm so hungry. Do you have anything for me to eat?" This little girl, she went back in her house and brought him a glass of milk. He savored that milk as if he was tasting a whole banquet. He gave the glass back to the little girl, and now he starts searching in his pocket for money to pay her back. And then she said, "I'm so sorry. My mother always taught me not to receive any money for good actions." So now this little girl fed his soul by saying something so beautiful. And then he went on to sell his newspapers. He moved from Chicago far away. He became the doctor in a special kind of disease. And one day, as he entered the hospital, he sees someone's name that it is from the city he belonged to, Chicago. He goes into the room and he realizes this is that little girl, but now a grown-up woman. And she had a rare kind of disease. So he promised her, "I will do my best to take care of you. I'll do anything within my power and my knowledge to help you out." And after 6 months, many operations, she was radically cured. But then, administration came in to present her the bill. And if you've been in a hospital without insurance, she said to herself, "Oh my God, I'm only going to live now just to pay for this bill. How am I going to be able to pay this? More than $500,000. So she started calculating and all these different things. And she noticed that at the bottom there was a signature of the doctor with a big arrow showing to turn to the back paper. So she flipped the paper, and then it said, "Bill paid in full a long time ago with a glass of milk." The bad things that other people do to you do not make you a bad person. The bad things that you do to others, it makes you evil. So make sure you always do good, because you do the good you do to others, it always comes back to you. Thank you for your attention.